In today's video, I will exactly show you how to generate the best 3D models possible with Trellis2 in combination with the new Ultrashape Refiner in ComfyUI. We are going to have a detailed look how you can install both of them easier than ever before. How we can find the best settings to generate our models with 4K textures, run it low VRAM, fix all the holes and internal structures, and how to use Trellis2 multiview features and much more. By the end of this video, you will be able to create watertight, detailed meshes locally with Trellis2 and Ultrashape on your own PC. Having said that, let's dive right into it. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In case you don't know me yet, my name is Philip from Pixel Artistry. And today I wanted to show you a quick way how you can refine your Trellis2 models with Ultrashape, but as well how to find the best settings for it and how to install it easier than ever before. Because in my last video I noticed that some of you still had problems with the installation, which makes sense because we have a lot of different setups. Each one of us has kind of a different GPU card, and we try to find a way easier way for you to install it, and it's kind of a one-click solution, which is really cool. And this is about the ComfyUI Easy Install package, and you might remember it already from the Pixaroma Discord channel. In case you don't know him yet, definitely check him out, but I think most of you will already know him. He's also a great YouTuber doing ComfyUI tutorials. I sat down with Ivo and big shout out also goes to him because he developed the ComfyUI Easy Install package as well as the Trellis2 script, which is really cool because we simply just need to execute it and it will directly set up you with the Trellis2 installer. And I also developed an Ultrashape one-click installer script for you. So basically what you need to do is follow those steps over here, and you will find them on our Discord channel in the Trellis channels, so make sure to join our free Discord. Otherwise you can also follow along here with the video instructions. I will also put you all links in the video description down below as always. So first thing is that we need to update our Nvidia drivers. Most of you know that already. If not, just launch the Nvidia app and check for your drivers and check for any latest ones. And that's it for the first step. Next step is then that we go here to the ComfyUI Easy Install page on GitHub. And this was also developed by Ivo, and it will include a lot of custom nodes that are already set up for you. In case you have Trellis2 installed beforehand already, then you can of course also use it on your own ComfyUI portable. But I can highly recommend to check out the ComfyUI Easy Install package because it's really clean and not messing up any dependency, so you will have a lot less headaches and stuff when installing it through this package. And you can then, for example, always use this package from now on because it's highly optimized and really good because it's constantly developed by Ivo actually. So first thing we're going to need to do is download here the latest release, so just click on it and now we can save it to our folder. Once we downloaded the file, what we need to do then is first to extract the zip file. Just right click and then to extract all to extract it. And as you can see, it will then open here a new folder, and in this one you will find a ComfyUI easy install.bat file. Just double click on it and then it will automatically download and install ComfyUI for you with the required packages that we need. Okay, great. And once the installer finished, you will see that you have a new folder over here called ComfyUI Easy Install, and here we can then directly go to the add-ons tab over here. And then first thing you're going to need to do is that we switch our Torch and CUDA version. And great thing is there's already a Torch pack here with an automatic installer for you, so you don't need to do crazy stuff in the terminal or something. So we can quickly go in here and then we're saying we would like to install the Torch 2.8.0 and the CUDA 12.8. Then I'm going just to double click this one and then it will install as well the Torch version for you. Just wait until the installer is done and then we can move on to the next step. And once it's complete, we can then close this window here and then go back to add-ons. And first thing we would like to install then is the flash attention.bat file over here. Simply just double click this one here and then it will install flash attention for you. This should install quite fast and you will see it then over here once it's done. And then we can already install Trellis2. We just need to click here on this one, double click it, and now it will also install Trellis2 with all the dependencies we need, and it will also automatically download all the models that you need. So you don't need to have approval or something anymore. It will just directly download the model for you and put it in the right folder. So just wait until this is finished again. And then once this completed, we can then last last but not least, also install Ultrashape. Just double click on this one here. This might not be included already in the add-ons folder, so I will link you this also down below in the video description, so you can just download it directly from there. And what we need to do is then just double click this one. This might take a while because the file is larger than any of the other files, so just be patient for this one. You can also always see the progress over here and just wait for it to also finish. Alright, great. And once the installation is finished here, we have completed then all the installation scripts that we need to run the workflow. And what we need to do is then just to close this window here, go to the ComfyUI easy install, and we need to then start this ComfyUI flash attention.bat file over here. In case you have low VRAM, like 8 to 12 gigabytes of VRAM, for example, what you can do is that we go right click in here, then go to edit with notepad, then it will open here a new window for you. And once you have the window open here, make sure to then add the -- disable pinned memory tag over here. Then go to File and Save. Then you can close this window, and now we can then start ComfyUI. Alright, and once you launch ComfyUI, as you can see, we then have this blank window over here. And you can see already that we have here some alerts. You can always ignore them. I never had issues with them, even though they're popping up all the times. Don't know why, actually. Maybe it's a bug or something, or because it doesn't find the model from the startup itself. But yeah, you could just close those ones and ignore them, kind of. And what we can do now is actually launch our first workflow. So I will go in here, and you will find the workflow, like I have it here in this folder, but you will find the workflow also in the video description. And then I will just drag and drop in here, and you will see that we have some custom missing nodes, but these ones we can easily install through the ComfyUI manager. So I will close those ones again over here. Then I will go to manager, install missing custom nodes. Then I'm selecting the memory cleanup over here and the geometry pack, go to install, and then just make sure afterwards to then restart ComfyUI. Alright, and after restarting ComfyUI, your workflow should look like this here, and we should have no red nodes anymore, and everything should be loaded in. Just to make it a bit cleaner, I always prefer to go to the ComfyUI settings over here, and then just click on light graph here, and then going here to straight. So now it looks a bit more structured. And as you can see, I divided this workflow into multiple steps. And the first step is basically that we have here the load image. So here is where you upload your image. Always make sure to choose here a 1:1 ratio. I also set this here in this node, but I always recommend this to put it into a 1:1 ratio already, so that it has the same measurements on the width and the height actually, because otherwise your model will be stretched and we don't want that. Also, we have here a background removal node, which we can use to then have a solid alpha and a transparent background, and we don't have unnecessary things in the background implemented. Then we have here the mesh gen. Here your model will be generated, which I will show you in a second with all the settings. And then as a next step, it will go then into the Ultrashape Refine. Because so far we always encountered like holes in our mesh with Trellis2 and internal structures and doubled up geo that we don't want. And this one here, the Ultrashape Refine, will basically handle all of that and will fix like all the issues that we had before, which is simply amazing. So we will do this one then as a next step. And then we have here the cleanup mesh section. So this one will just remesh our file again, and it will then go in here and remove like small components. For example, we can also disable here the refine holes because we don't need this, and the fill holes because it won't have any holes. So that's great, and we can keep it as is, and then just emerge vertices like we would do in Blender over here. And then as a last step, we have here the texturing, where we will then take our model that we refined with the Ultrashape Refine over here, and then we will just give it here UVs, and we will then texture it directly in 4K, actually, as you can see here, then our mesh. And just to show you quickly, first image I'm going to upload is actually this one here, which was really cool. It's just a variation of one image I found in the Hanyuan Tencent Discord. So shout out to all guys over there, because it's really great what they're coming up with all the time. Also shout out goes here to Terry Gia, who developed the ComfyUI Ultrashape repository, which I'm using here, as well as to Rizlord, who figured out a way to offload it to the CPU, which then takes much less VRAM than before, because so far it always took like 24 gigabytes of VRAM to run Ultrashape. But with this method, and this is what I'm using in the auto installer, it's then offloading it to the memory, and this way it's way faster and more reliable. So having said that, let's go back to our workflow, and now once I loaded my image in, I will just run the workflow and then to show you what it's actually doing. Alright, and once we run the workflow for the first time, as you can see, we then have here a visual representation of the mesh from Trellis, and it might look familiar to you that we have a bunch of holes here. This is of course an extreme example, but I wanted to show you how well this workflow is working and what an awesome job Ultrashape is doing to fix our mesh. Because as you can see in the next step, once it's then going over to the Ultrashape Refine, we get then this really solid mesh here with all closed holes. We don't have any internal structures and all holes are closed basically. We still have like those floating pieces like also over here, but this is more dependent on the seed that we chose here. So if you would like to have this fixed, I would recommend then to run the seed over here again. But anyways, apart from that, you can see that it closed all holes entirely, and in the next step it's then cleaning up and removing all those floating pieces. It will remesh your mesh, that you have a proper topology and then a texturing, because this is what is happening here then basically, that it's going inside here and fix those things. And as you can see, when we go then to our texturing, we can see that we then have no floating pieces at all anymore, and we have a really clean and solid mesh. We can also have a look at the model shape like the normal, and as you can see, this is all looking much cleaner than what we had before only with Trellis2, which I think is really cool. And of course this is exported right now as a GAB file, but you could also change, for example, it here to OBJ or directly as an STL file, for example, if you would like to 3D print it. For the first go, by the way, it might take a while because it will download additional models for you, so just be patient when it's running for the first time. This can take several minutes. I can also recommend, in case you would like to have more control over the workflow, is that you disable, bypass all those steps over here first by just clicking here on the three dots and then just click here on bypass. So you could select all of them with control and then say control and B, and then they will be disabled, and then you can just generate first the shape over here and then go with all the other steps afterwards. Just to show you quickly, the best settings I found so far to get the best quality is that you go into this mode here, which is only responsible for the base shape generation, and here we have different parameters we can play with. So obviously the biggest one is here the pipeline type, which is using the AI model that we will use, and you will have here different parameters. Obviously the 1536 cascade, obviously this one here is the highest setting, but this one will also require the most VRAM. Just as a tip, always have the use tile decoder set to true, because this will save you a lot of VRAM. So it really depends on how much VRAM you have available. You can run this workflow, by the way, when you choose here 1024, you can run this easily, like the whole workflow, with 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Apart from that, to control the quality, some important sliders we have over here is the sparse structure step size, then we have the shape steps over here, and we have as well the sparse structure resolution. And those ones are the main factors that is dependent how defined your mesh will be, as well as of course the 1024 cascade. In my case, I usually go with the 1024 cascade or the true 1024 if you can run it, and just selecting them, and then I would just usually increase the steps over here to something like 30 maybe, here as well on shape steps, and this one I will leave at 32 because this is quite high already. And apart from that, you could also play around with those settings over here with the intervals, but they are really for specific fine-tuning, so feel free to play around with them, but you can also leave them at default and it will still give you a great result. For the refine mesh section, just to have a look a quick look at this as well. I think those are already one of the best settings you can have. I would highly recommend to leave it here at 8192 latents. The chunk size can stay like this. For the octreres, you could go potentially higher in case you have enough memory on your system. Yes, I'm not talking here about the VRAM, but about the memory, about the system RAM you have installed. We'll offload it then here to CPU. And this is also why it's very important to keep this on true, because otherwise it will use your VRAM. You can use that in case you have a 5090, for example, but otherwise I would recommend to go in case you have lower VRAM. I have 16 GB in my case, so I would leave that on. Apart from that, you can also choose here the step size or choose the voxel resolution. This one I would also play around with because this is also really dependent how much quality we get. So you could also try to set this up to 512, for example. As you can see here, the workflow is also cleaning up VRAM on each step, so we can make sure that we can run this on one go. And it will also output for you a albedo texture, which is delayed, as well as the metallic and reference map. They're just here mixed together in a red and a green channel. So they are just mixed here in different color channels, and this is why it looks green over here. We can also take a direct look at this in Blender. So once you have opened it, we can go to File, Import GLB, and then importing our latest mesh. By the way, you will always find your latest models over here that you generated under the Output tab. And then once you open that, as you can see, we then have here our model, and as you can see as well, it's very clean. We have no holes anymore. And to watch our texture or to look at it is that we go here to Material Preview, and then we also have our material over here. This workflow also performs really well, of course, when using hard surface meshes. So just to show you quickly an example here. So I will choose File to upload and go here with this gun that we have over here, and then running all the steps again. And once the workflow finished, this is then the result with the hard surface mesh that I tested. And as you can see, this is the Trellis result, and then Ultrashape is refining that and adding more cleaner shapes. Of course, we have a bit more detail here in the Trellis shape, as you can see, but on the other hand, we have here more like cleaner shapes overall, I would say. And you can also, to get more detail into it, you can play around with the voxel resolution and the octreres to get here even cleaner results, especially with the voxel resolution, which I will also test. Apart from that, we then have here also our texturing of it, which is great. I think for this one, you can also play around here, of course, with the texture steps and the texture size as well. And you can also convert them, for example, in save images, that you then have the albedo texture, for example, and the metallic roughness and the albedo texture already saved out to your PC. By the way, I can highly recommend to run the ComfyUI Easy install on your SSD drive, because it will be way faster to load your models and stuff like this. So just to mention that. And next thing is I'm going to show you now the multiview workflow in Trellis2 and how you can use it. Alright, and just to show you quickly, we also do have a multiview workflow for Trellis2. And this is basically by combining multiple images over here into an image batch multimode, and then we can upscale the image and then go with the same workflow we had before. And I will quickly launch this workflow in a second, just for you to know. This will be, of course, also linked down below, and it will be called something like Pixel Artistry Multiview or something, and then you can just load it into ComfyUI directly. And as you can see, I uploaded here a front view, a side view, and a back view. Just to note is that the multi-view feature is not working perfectly all the time, because Trellis2 was not really trained on that, but it's still worth to explore this mode, I think. So this is definitely cool. And then as you can see, we're using here Ultrashape again to refine our mesh, and then we could clean it up and texture our mesh again. I'm going to quickly also launch this one, and then I will show you in a second the results. Alright, and once our multi-view generation finished, as you can see, this was also working quite well in this case. So it reflected here the back side as well quite good, and the front side. As I mentioned, you can also adjust the settings over here to refine this. And then we also have here our textured view with like all the sides and stuff, which is great. And then we also have here our textured result, and this one we could then also directly load into Blender, for example. As a last and final step, I just wanted to show you the Trellis2 Mesh Refiner. This is also a workflow I will link you down below. And this one we could basically drag into here. And then what you will see is that we first need to upload our image over here. So just to refine, for example, the mesh that we just generated, is that I'm going into here and choosing here the front view, for example. Then I would here load our mesh in. So what I need to do is that we're going to the output folder. This is under ComfyUI and then output. And as you can see here, this is the one I just generated. So I'm saying here copy as path. Then I will paste this in here. And then once I have loaded this in, I can here keep model it's loaded, set it to fails. And then I can also create here really quick a RMBG node. So we have that again, and that we have no background anymore. And once we have that, I can then also launch this workflow over here. And then we see, because basically the mesh refiner is taking the mesh that we're loading in here, and then it will add additional detail to our mesh that we created beforehand. And you can see then here the final result with the refiner. So in case you have enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. A lot of work went into this video to develop the workflows and to have all the installation scripts ready and so on. So I would highly appreciate it. Otherwise, also make sure to join our free newsletter Future Frames, and actually see you on the next one.